Have you guys ever seen an episode of every series in which you know basically what's going to happen even without spoilers because you know the fact that the show has to basically put aside their best stuff for the finale or the next episode, and they basically give you just a small little taste of what you wanted to eat in this episode? Well, that was this episode. And I personally had a big problem with it, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily dislike this episode. So let's get into the review. Vegeta faces off against Hit. That's basically what we knew going into the previews. And Vegeta's struggling in a significant way. He goes straight into his Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, Super Saiyan God, whatever the hell you want to call it. He goes straight into his full powered form and he starts fighting against Hit. And guess what? He's losing. Why? Because of the fact that Hit is basically using a time skip move where he's basically going into the future already knowing what his opponent's moves are going to be and basically giving him a very significant edge over his opponents. Now, what pisses me off is that they didn't do more with the whole plot elements of what Jocko was talking about. So what do I mean by this? Bulma, obviously knowing that Vegeta was in a position where he is at a significant disadvantage because of Hit's time skip technique, she talks to Jocko and the Galactic King about it, and they don't really care. And that pissed me off because it's like, this guy's using a move that's basically making him nearly impossible to defeat. And I wanted Vegeta to fight Hit at least on a conventional level, and Vegeta is basically being used as fodder. Now, the one thing that did anger me about this episode, and I'm not all negative on this episode, guys, this is just this one part, is the fact that Dragon Ball Super is going into the direction of Goku once again. So, what did they do? Well, Goku and Vegeta are virtually around the same level of power, but what they're doing, they brought Goku back right after they figured out that Frost had cheated, only to re-enter him back in the show and to give him an edge in victory over Hit, because we pretty much know that that's the direction that the show is going to go at this point. They wouldn't have brought Goku back if they weren't going to do that, and that's what makes it suck. They throw Vegeta aside, basically had Vegeta's fight with Hit gave Goku almost no indication of what he could do against Hit, and they're basically throwing Goku all out on his own to figure it out all by himself, to be typical Goku, bumping into things, as we've seen in Dragon Ball, that give him edges and makes him look brilliant as a fighter, which he is in many ways. So, the thing that sucks is the fact that Dragon Ball Super, this Universe 6 arc is all wrapping out, and this is the way it's going to go. Now, in terms of the other elements of the episode, one thing that did kind of tick me off is I wasn't a very big fan of the animation. I thought the animation was below average. If I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a D. Just a solid D, not a D plus, D minus. I would say it was definitely below average. It looked really bad. Vegeta's face looked very smushed when he was fighting against Hit. And the weird thing about it is the fact that Vegeta himself is a character that's always been known to use his brain, at least in certain elements, to fight against his opponents, but they completely took away Vegeta's cerebral elements that we were seeing in the whole fight against Vegeta, and they've just basically made him look like a mindless, charging idiot as he has looked, in other parts of Dragon Ball, and that really sucks for Vegeta, and that really sucks for me because he's one of my favorite characters. Now, the one thing about this episode that did change my mind about certain things is the whole thing that Beerus said about Monaka. He says that Monaka is basically a complete amateur. An amateur that he basically was hiding from both Goku and Vegeta because of the fact that he wanted Goku and Vegeta to maximize their training, and he wanted them to fight without knowing that Monaka was this big tough guy. And in all honesty, I actually kind of like that, because I think that's something that a good teacher would do. You want your students to maximize their energy, and by making Monaka look out to be this good guy, you're basically, by basically placing Monaka to be your last fighter, you're basically putting, your students at risk to defeat all of the, opponents on their own without having to rely on Manaka, because if Manaka obviously comes up, he's gonna lose. And I felt that was really interesting. Some people are probably raging about it. I saw it on Twitter. A lot of people are pissed about the whole Manaka thing, but I personally like it. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you guys personally like the whole Manaka thing? I personally do. I think it was a good teaching move. I do think it's kind of cheap that they made it, him a complete wimp. But you know what? So be it. So, with everything else said, guys, I'm going to have to give this episode 2 stars. I thought this episode was below average. The animation didn't look very good. The fight techniques weren't very explored as we've seen in the previous episodes. It wasn't very entertaining because Vegeta was being dominated. The first fight only lasted a few minutes, so there wasn't much to really capitalize on. And when Goku started fighting against Hit, I mean, that took place like near the end of the episode too. So I feel like we didn't get that much action out of this episode, in all honesty, and we didn't get a lot of varied action. There was cool seeing Goku get that one hit on Hit. Yeah, funny. Goku got a hit on Hit near the end, and I thought that was a cool scene, I guess, how we were seeing in the previews that, Goku's predicting Hit's movements. But in all honesty, this just wasn't a very good episode in my opinion. I don't hate it. I'm not raging on it. I just don't like the direction that they're doing to just basically do the same thing they've done in Dragon Ball over and over and over and over and over and over again. So for my predictions, guys, I really honestly just don't have much to say. This episode was so predictable. It's pretty predictable what's going to happen. Goku's gonna go fight against Hit. He's gonna get some essence of finding out how to defeat him, as he always does, and eventually he's gonna defeat Hit and all is gonna be well. That's pretty much what's gonna happen. I don't like that outcome because it's the same outcome we've seen throughout the entire series, and I don't like what they did to Vegeta. I don't like what they did to Piccolo, but you know what? The show is what it is. Goku must always get the win, and that's how it is. So, if you guys are pissed off about Goku and Dragon Ball Super basically going into the same direction it always has done in the past, please say so in the comment section below. If you completely disagree with me, I'm open to, your opinions on, if you disagree with the points. But in all honesty, I just didn't like it, and this episode was below average. I'll probably never watch this episode again on my own leisure time. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys. And if you feel my pain about Dragon Ball deviating from what it should be, say so in the comment section below. And have a great day.